53. Okay, Phil, you have an interesting story to tell here. East Ferris. How long you been living out in East Ferris?
Since 2011, Tread Lightly Drive.
Retired from the ONR?
That's correct, yeah. I was a conductor there when I retired.
You had some experience with the unions as executive member?
Yeah, I was the leader of one of the unions there, and the GCA, an umbrella group of unions. I had some time working there with senior management and exploring the issues that affected Ontario Northland at the time.
You have some experience with bureaucracy and administration then?
I'm pretty much aware of how bureaucracy functions in an agency anyway, in some government organizations.
Yeah. All right. Well, tell me about your experience and your latest project regarding East Ferris.
Well, it started when I learned that the landfill had its life extended and the capacity greatly expanded. I can remember when I moved there, the former mayor Ray Bosch cautioning us that we had to be very careful with our landfill because it was going to reach the end of life at that time in 2011 or 2012. I think we would have been at end of life in about 7 or 8 years. So that to me seemed like a pretty tight timeline, and I understood we should pay attention to how we utilize our landfill. So it was a surprise to me when I subsequently found out, after talking with Mayor Rochford, I had seen an article on the McMurrich Township extending the life of their landfill capacity, and it was quite an involved process. It took them 9 years to get the proper permits and the infrastructure in place in order to do that. I asked Mayor Rochford what we had been doing in order to extend the life of our landfill, and it was in the strategic plan that they would examine the waste management strategy. So I asked, and I was surprised to find out the response was, well, it's not really a priority for us because the landfill's life is good for some 80 years, which was news to me. And I wondered how one municipality can extend their landfill by 80 years and another one takes 9 years to get it done. This happened out of the blue. There was no news. There was nothing about how East Ferris managed to do it. So of course that naturally made me curious. And I wanted to find out, so I went back and looked at the financial statements, and sure enough, in 2012, it was a 7-year lifespan, and in 2013, it moved to an 84-year lifespan. And that was the only information there was on it. There was no other information. So I requested, and this would be back in October 2020, I requested the information that would detail how that expansion was able to take place. And I didn't get an immediate answer. I wrote about it actually in Small Town Times. There was one column on that. So that was a process. And in the midst of that, the communication policy was passed by East Ferris Council. And I thought, oh, well, this is perfect. This is, here's a way for me to find out how I can get the information, because I had, as detailed in that article, it was quite a process involving freedom of information, the ombudsman, fee waivers, and that sort of thing. It took quite a while. But eventually I did get the documents I had requested about a year and a bit later. So, well, first of all, the document wasn't the right one. It didn't explain exactly what I wanted. So I read through the document they did give me, and it referred to a 2013 design and operations study of the landfill. So I thought, oh, perfect. This is what I have. This is what I need. So I requested that document. Well, that took me another, I think, almost a year to get that document. And then when I did get it, I had questions. So I put the questions on paper and emailed them to Jason Trottier, the CAO, hoping that, he could clear this up for me and really let me know how this transition expansion was able to take place. But I haven't got any response out of Mr. Trottier. There's been no communication about what those answers might entail, or why they can't answer me, or why they don't want to answer me. I'm not sure which it is. But I ended up going back to the ombudsman, of course. And the ombudsman said, well, you have to file a complaint because they have a complaint procedure. So, hey, it's only been 2 years. I can wait another month or two. It's not a big deal. So first of all, I filed an informal complaint. There was absolutely no response. So I waited a couple of weeks, and then I filed a formal complaint. I got a response saying that Mr. Trottier would answer my formal complaint. That was a month ago. There's been no response.
What is an informal complaint?
An informal complaint is when you just send an email to the clerk and say, listen, here's the problem I'm having. And I guess the clerk forwards that email or that informal complaint to the proper manager, director, or official to deal with. And then I guess you work back and forth to come up with a resolution to the complaint. But there was no response, so there was no resolution forthcoming. So now we've moved to the formal complaint process, which is equally as successful apparently. And the ombudsman has just been advised this past week that I've done what you asked. I've filed the complaint and still no response. So we'll see what's the next step.
So all told, 2 years, no answers that you require.
Yeah, give or take, about a year and a half maybe. So
there was some information provided, but it didn't answer your question.
Right. Yeah, I did. It was enough information to find out what I should have been requesting, so that was helpful. And I have been able to look at the design operations and whatever it is, design operations study. But I mean, I'm not an engineer, so it's tough for me to make sense of it. So I have to ask questions, and they don't seem, for a communication policy, it doesn't look like they want to communicate much.
And when did they pass this communication policy?
I'm not sure the actual date. It would have been within the this term of council, for sure. I know it was this term of council that passed it. Whether it was a year or two ago, I'm not sure.
We'll double check on that, just for the exact date.
Yep.
Who else have you been speaking about this? Is there anybody else in another township that has helped you at all, or?
No. At one point I CC'd all the councillors on one or two of the questions. I had other questions along the way, but they got ignored. I mean, Mayor Rochford replied to me, and we had a telephone call, but to be honest with you, I can't remember what we discussed. So I know I didn't get any answers, let's put it that way.
Well, I guess this is like a living story then.
Well, I mean, it goes to show, you can have all the policies you want, but if they're not implemented in the right way, if they're not designed to achieve what it is we really want, which is by the strategic plan, I assume they want better communication, they want better engagement with the residents. They do have an engagement policy, which has since come out again in this term of council, but it seems to be engagement all on the townships, on the municipalities side. if we want to engage, this is the way we're going to do it. There's nothing in there to say if a resident wants to engage the municipality, here's how we will respond and here's how we will handle it. That's not the way the policy's written. So having the policies is great.
So it's a goal, not a procedure.
Yeah. It's not designed to allow or to give the residents a playbook on how to engage the municipality. It's when the municipality decides how they're going to engage you, and they reserve the right to totally decide how that's going to be, this is what they will do, or these are the steps they may take in that case. But there's nothing there to tell how, if somebody wants to engage the municipality, how will they respond?
So basically we have a landfill that had its life extended without a clear picture of how they extended the life of the landfill.
If you read through that design study, it certainly speaks to, how it's going to be managed within. East Ferris has a huge piece of property there that they can use as a landfill. But there's caveats that go to it. I mean, you've got to be able to prove that the expansion won't have adverse effects. Well, how are we doing that? I haven't seen too much across the news on how they're doing that. There's monitoring that's supposed to be taking place, and maybe it is, maybe it's not. I don't know. Like they don't publish that. They don't advertise that. It's the landfill's there. It works. It's out of sight, out of mind. Carry on.
Does East Ferris have a specific landfill committee of some sort?
No, not that I know of. Anyway,
might be just part of Public Works.
It is part of Public Works, yeah. But again, I don't know if anybody else is concerned or cares or is interested even in it. I mean, it seems in our society, it's just out of sight, out of mind. If you can get rid of your garbage, everything's good. But I think we're finding out that we've got to track that a little better and find out. I mean, piling all the world's plastic in a field in Thailand is not the answer to our environmental problems. We've got to address those locally and be aware of them locally. And I don't see it yet.
Cool. I think we've covered most of it.
All right.